Disney's new Little Mermaid just flopped at the South Korean and Chinese box offices, but is it for the reason that this article suggests? I don't know. The internet is debating it.
Yeah, and the discussion got spicy. Of course, some people are accusing, Chinese and South Korean moviegoers of being colorist because the movie relatively did perform better in the Philippines and Indonesia. Other people are like, dude, to call countries racist because they didn't like one movie that may not even have been that good to begin with is ridiculous. Those countries also love Black Panther. And of course, the discussion just went to like 6,000 other places. We're going to get into the comment section, give our own takeaways. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. And why is this such a big deal? We're talking about a Disney movie starring Halle Bailey, who used to date DDG. They just broke up. She's great at singing, but everybody's using this to discuss the world.
The Little Mermaid was supposed to unite us all. Disney movies, that's what they're supposed to do.
Under the sea.
Oh, why is a Disney movie and box office numbers from Asia being used to divide Asians and Black people in America? I don't understand.
What was the angle of the writer? We need to know. By the way, I'm not completely discrediting the article's perspective or tone or viewpoint. I'm just questioning it because it did seem a little ultra selective, to be honest.
So let's just go through the numbers real quick. Okay, so it did 3.5 million in China opening weekend, not very good, right? In South Korea, it did 4.4, a little bit better, and South Korea is a lot smaller of a market. In Indonesia and the Philippines, it did respectively like 4 and 4.1 million. So I think it did relatively better in those countries, but not like amazing either.
Right, but the article that was posted on Next we don't know if the writer was Asian or white. There's a lot of speculation. There's almost conspiracy theories if you read through the comment section. We're basically saying they went through some of the netizens' reactions in China and South Korea, and that's where some of the comments were a little bit into the problematic zone.
No, there were some racial comments, but the comments that they highlighted basically said, oh yeah, I imagine that Ariel is this white woman, and that's what I grew up knowing. So this switch up is too much for me to relate to. I couldn't
My brain
relate.
cannot handle the dissonance with my childhood.
Yeah, I just watched The Little Mermaid 10 years ago, and then 10 years later, she is a completely different person. Yeah, but basically, anyways, guys, we want to get into the comment section, but I want to leave you with one question before we get into the comment section, which is very spicy. What if the movie did well in South Korea and China? Are we going to hear positive news about that? And it's saying like, oh, look, East Asia's not colorist and they're not racist because people love The Little Mermaid over there. Or is it only because it didn't do well? That's why we're hearing this news, and it's being kind of this narrative is being spun this way.
Using a movie as a litmus test is so ridiculous. Oh, they didn't put Finn on the Chinese Star Wars poster. China's racist. Oh, they worship Kobe almost more than any other country on earth, including America. Oh, they're not racist. You know what I mean? Like, to look at these hyper little minutia things and then draw sweeping categorizations, it's very much just what the internet likes to do in 2023, though.
It's very tough, yeah. All right, so David, let's get into the comment section.
All right, so the comment section was, we have to take a look at the data set. This is what David Choi Music said. Listen, would have CRA or Asian movies have done really well in Africa? How did movies like Black Panther do? Like we said, it's all about the data set. I think Halle Bailey did a good job, but to draw conclusions from this is kind of ridiculous and a reach, right?
Yeah, I don't like how basically global statistics from Asia are being used to divide Asians and Black people in America. To me, it's very weird, No,
that's what makes you question the aim of this author, because they don't mention that Spider-Verse with Miles Morales, who's Black and Latino, did really well in Asia. Yeah. And a lot of Will Smith movies do really well. And Black Panther, I believe, got the most of its money from Asia and China market of all the markets in the world.
Oh, yeah, and as far as Black women, Woman King is supposed to be releasing in China soon, too. So obviously they see some appeal in that movie. Also, Shang-Chi and Mulan, which are Chinese-American-led or Chinese-led movies, they flopped in Asia. So it's not only because of race, but I will say race could be a factor.
Right. I mean, also, China makes up 40% of the NBA's global profits. However, this was a pretty good counterpoint, Andrew. This is from a Black guy. He said, it is because the idea of hyper-masculine Black men, whether in IRL as athletes or as action figures, have been globally accepted. However, Black women are more so struggling because of the perception that they are more masculine than your average woman. And I can empathize with this because I feel like as an Asian guy, we get perceived as more feminine than your average baseline, I guess, male in the world, whereas Asian women, they get perceived as extra feminine, but obviously in the women lane, that's a better quality than it is amongst basically, it's the mirror problem. It's the vice versa problem that Asian men and Black women have. So I can empathize with this comment.
Yes.
Somebody said, guys, the majority of black-led films such as Black Panther, Men in Black, Spider-Verse, they've done really well. Like you said, I mean, somebody else said, this is not even surprising, though, to be honest, because considering how much of a problem colorism and racism is throughout Asia. So this is somebody basically pointing out, I'm not surprised that this movie failed in South Korea and China.
Yeah, I think that there is colorism, and here's the thing, we talked about it on our channel before, where colorism, I guess, by the way that we define it in the West, it does exist, but it's not for the same reasons. It's not between this like white European and like black African kind of colorism spectrum. It's actually just between different shades of Asians, and that other different types of Asians obviously have different bloodlines and stuff, but it's really not for the same reason. It's more about like, oh, you worked out in the farm, so you're tan, and then that makes you like a lower class person or something. That's kind of where it's more rooted from.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying it's different, and it's like kind of weird to use the Western terms to describe Asia if you don't study Asia, study its own unique history and blah, 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 the ebbs and flows. Somebody said, bro, the movie was just not appealing in general. Stop making false correlations. Black Panther had the highest box office in China.
Yeah. So currently Little Mermaid is 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's actually a decent score, but it's not like an amazing score. So, I mean, I think there is debate on whether people actually like the movie or not.
Yeah, I guess in China, on the two major movie rating sites that are similar to Rotten Tomatoes, they got a 7.0 and a 5.2. So that's actually not that bad considering how bad it performed. You know what I mean? Plus, they bootleg a lot in China. Who knows? Maybe a lot more people saw it, but they watched it on a hacked iPad with a camcorder. Let's be honest. Somebody said, yes, us dark-skinned Asians like Filipinos support this. I don't know about East Asians, though. They might be more colorist. Shout out to the Philippines showing up and supporting the film. And then this other guy, this black guy came in and said, Southeast Asians and black people have always had strong ties. So this kind of goes back to more of the spiciness, right? Because now we're sort of like deviating into the branches off of what the tree trunk original discussion was. What do you think of this?
Oh, man, I love the idea of splitting up Asia is really, really interesting to me. Yeah, I do think, listen, if you have tanner skin and you see someone else on the screen that has tanner, darker skin, you're more likely to relate to them. I get that. I think that is true. So I think there is some relatability. Now, I think where it turns into racism is if like an Asian person's like, oh, I don't want to watch this because she's black. Oh my God. Like, you know, and if that's really how they feel in their heart, then that is definitely a racist feeling. But at the same time, you know, those countries are like 90% plus Asian. Like East Asia, like Korea's like 95% Korean. China's like 92% Han Chinese. So it's like, they are like, yeah, it is just maybe you could say it's like, is it less relatable?
I think they're used to more of a spectrum of looks in Southeast Asia, to be honest. I will say that. That is for sure. I mean, I would say anecdotally growing up, my East Asian friends more so acted white, as generalized as that sounds, and my Southeast Asian friends more acted black, right? If we were to use the white-black binary that America often exists in, right?
Right.
Somebody said, man, the point is their netizens just didn't make the same commentary on skin color that we saw that pop up in the article. Right. Yeah, I could see that being true. Like I said, guys, I don't think that all the dynamics that were pointed out by this author in this like piece against the China box office and South Korea box office were wrong, but I just don't know how far you can extrapolate it from these numbers. Somebody said Mulan flopped across the globe. Maybe it's not just race is the biggest issue, guys. There's a lot of other factors that people don't like to consider.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, from a lot of blue check marks, they were saying Halle Bailey was the perfect casting choice. I agree. You know what I was ultimately thinking, Andrew? I was thinking as messy as these discussion and comment sections and long as these threads and debates are getting, hopefully Disney had a plan to spark something that even though it's messy right now, in the long term, they can be more something productive coming out of it.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of movies that end up making a big impact in the world are heavily discussed at the time of release. Right? And it's good that this sparks such a discussion because that means the story in the movie is actually influential and impactful. So I think that even Asians in Asia, like in China and Korea, having this conversation right now, right? And maybe our conversation gets back to them, or maybe this American conversation gets back to them, or them questioning their own reasons on why they didn't like that movie. Maybe they find out, oh yeah, it is because like I don't like that, or like, you know, whatever reasons it could be for, they're going to think about it now.
Yeah, if that happens, who knows, guys? Like I said, man, sometimes I think these articles, people don't really care what's happening in Asia. They just care when it's like something in a weird niche roundabout way related back to them. And they're trying to extrapolate some thin about the relationship between this group and this group
A
over
lot
here.
of people-
I'm not saying there's no correlation, but it just seems like there's a lot of other stuff we could be going off of.
A lot of people in America tend to only look at the negative news out of Asia, not the good news, not the unifying thing, not the bridge building things, because obviously good news doesn't travel as much as bad news. Divisive news is the most interesting.
Somebody said, I'm personally black and I work at the NAACP. Who cares about making Disney richer? There are so many bigger issues in society than this. This movie being successful or unsuccessful isn't going to change anything. So that was a comment from a black woman who works at the NAACP. This is a comment from a, I guess a little bit more conservative white guy, moderate conservative white guy. Said, the world isn't California, guys. Why are we taking LA, Hollywood, California standards and trying to judge the rest of the world? These things are really layered. They're really complicated. They don't even think about it. They might end up with a certain result and have gotten the math behind their solution is completely different.
Right. And then one last comment was like, oh, well, you know, like, thanks for covering this because I lived in Asia 3 years and it's not as easy for a black person to live there. And then someone responded to that saying, well, what if an Asian person moved to Africa, West Africa? What is their life going to be like? How are they going to get treated?
Right. This is an interesting argument. I guess it shows you how global the world is getting because a lot of people have like traveled to other continents now. Obviously, our parents, our grandparents.
Wait. So let me tell you this. So I guess there's two Americans that are arguing about how an Asian person or a black person gets treated in Asia and how an Asian person gets treated in Africa.
Right.
And these are two Americans arguing about this. I
need to see the box office receipts for CRA in Zambia or
Right.
Ghana. I need to see the Ghana box office.
Right.
I'm just
we
kidding.
don't know. Yeah, I guess it's just interesting to be bringing up Africa and China when you're arguing about things in America, I guess. I don't know.
Dude, I actually realize that a lot of people cannot disconnect just looks of people, even people who theoretically should know better. Or maybe it's just going off your skin tone. Who knows, man? Anyway, Andrew, what are our final takeaways? I do think that race played into the box office aspect a little bit. I do think so. I would agree with the author to a very limited extent in the sense of yes, you're pointing out something that very well may be true. But as far as this and where it zigged and where it zagged and where, the whole discussion went, I don't know. I just think it's weird the way Americans always need something so trivial tied back to Access Hollywood to talk about much more structural things.
Yeah. And also considering the comments that you got from fellow Americans about Little Mermaid, and they were way worse than some of these comments. You know what I mean? So I'm just I guess I'm not super shocked, but I hope that, hopefully this discussion reaches back over to some of those Asian people who left those comments, and maybe they can have this discussion in Asia.
And honestly, I do think that everybody is tribalistic, but when your country becomes more powerful, there's talk about this, talk about that, global north versus global south, and all these splits that kind of end up sort of like I said, here's the discussion, but then the branches go everywhere. So anyway, guys, let us know what you think in the comments section below, guys. Keep it civil. Is it a big deal? Is it not a big deal? What can you take from it, if anything? Until next time, we the Hot Pot Boys. We out. Peace.